Well, today's guest on the show is Mr. Matt Hammitt. Matt, thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with us.
Absolutely. It's great to be here with you guys. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from when we have guests on, we like to see sometimes what is like a popular restaurant in their hometown. And so you're from Toledo. And so we went on the good old TripAdvisor and the top few restaurants that were famous. And I don't understand why, but Olive Garden and Chick-fil-A. So there you go. I don't know.
Definitely like very local.
Yeah.
That's what we were looking for. We were looking for like locals, and Olive Garden, Chick-fil-A popped up. We're like, okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you go to Toledo, you go to Mancy's Steakhouse, or you go to Tony Paco's. To get a hot dog. So that's the deal, man. Lebanese food too, man, is incredible. Billy Joel, funny enough, actually loves the Lebanese food in Toledo. So yeah,
interesting.
I don't know where there is Chick-fil-A, of course. There is Olive Garden. Great breadsticks.
Get great breadsticks. And if Olive Garden wants to sponsor this podcast, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was definitely weird because we're from we're from Louisville, Kentucky, and it's a pretty foodie town. Like there's a lot of local good spots. And as soon as it popped up saying Olive Garden, Chick-fil-A, we were like, there's something wrong here. they have to have something else.
Somebody paid for some SEO.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Matt, in getting started with Sanctus Real, who were some of your musical influences that you really looked up to that kind of meshed who you were?
Yeah, we had kind of a hybrid of influences. We were kids that grew up in the church who listened to, kind of what was available at the time. So I guess I would say like the mainstream Christian music, which would be like DC Talk and Audio Adrenaline. When Switchfoot came out, we were really into Switchfoot. There was also kind of a season of Tooth and Nail music when Tooth and Nail came on the scene. And for me, it was like, I don't know if you know, like Starflyer 59 or like Morello's Forest or Joy Electric. And then there was a whole slew of bands on Tooth and Nail that were just really eclectic, kind of weird bands that I remember being like, I remember I had a CD from Hot Pink Turtle, which was a band back in the day. And I was like, whoa, this is Christian music. That's so crazy,
Yeah.
And I was kind of just trying to get into whatever I could that I thought was really awesome, Yes FM was the first local Christian station that came on the air. And I remember, they came on the air and the first song they played was Stephen Curtis Chapman's Great Adventure. And so so there was kind of this mix of Christian music, of, rock and hip hop and just kind of Christian top 40 contemporary. And then we also were influenced by bands like Weezer, man. I remember when Weezer came out with their Blue album, we were just like floored. That was like probably the album we listened to and covered more than any other, just for the sake of jamming and playing and learning how to write music. And Foo Fighters were coming out at the time with some great music. So there was kind of some really amazing Christian music that we were influenced by. And then sonically, we had some bands that we were really influenced by as well. So, it's kind of, I feel like a merger of those two worlds. Some melodically, I had grown up on Sting and Phil Collins and Genesis. And so there was kind of this kind of melodic side of it, lyrical storytelling side of it, mixed with just like the rock side of it that I think kind of came together and made like all those sounds came together to make who we were as Sanctus Real.
Yeah.
And Chris really, his biggest influence probably was Tom Petty musically. That's what he'd grown up on. And so it was, as we kind of embraced the Christian music scene as teenagers, we kind of meshed those sounds with the message.
Yeah, I think it's cool to hear you say all those things, because thinking back about every single band and person that you mentioned, you can hear like those influences in your all's music.
Yeah.
And even throughout the years, like as I'm thinking of different songs throughout the years, like the differences in the influence.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're very present. It's funny actually, Chris, the guitar player for Sanctus Real, sent me a track he's working on yesterday. He's actually working on a solo project. And when he sent it to me, he was like, I'm looking for a name. And I was like, well, this is like Tom Petty and Weezer had a love child. And you're like, you should call it Tom Weezy, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to call it, but pretty
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Yeah, think about like your Say It Loud album, you know, those songs, you know, more like a, you know, different sound, and then all the way to Lead Me, you know, just the inspiration that you all had throughout all those years. It's eclectic.
Yeah, it is. It's a big mix of music, but it came together for us, I think, you know, to make something special, you know, between us guys and the influences we had. We were really blessed to have each other and the influences. And yeah, something happened when we got in a room together that felt special to us. And I think we feel really grateful that it became special to some other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely did.
Well, Matt, your latest single, Packed Up My Love, about your daughter. It's a very beautiful song. Could you please tell our viewers and listeners about this single?
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, when my daughter, Emmy, who's my oldest of 4, turned 13, I got in a room with a guy named Benji Cowart, who's a friend of mine, who's a songwriter. And, you know, Benji had a daughter who was the same age as Emmy. And they were turning 13, and we were like, oh, man, what would we want to say to our daughters? At the time, I was in a deal with Seth Mosley, and it was Full Circle Music. I had just stepped away from Sanctus Real. I had wanted to be home, you know, more. So I got off the road. I was doing mostly songwriting, but me and Seth were like, hey, well, you know, I'm not touring the way I used to, but let's make some music. Let's make an album. And we had already made my album, and then me and Benji made that song. And so that wasn't really the time for me to be able to produce it and put it out. So I kind of had this feeling that I would have to wait 5 years till my daughter turned 18 and put it out then. So I kind of had it in the back of my mind this whole time, like, I'm going to record that song and I'm going to put it out. And so, you know, the line in it is, you know, I can't always travel the roads you'll be on. So I packed up my love for you here in this song. And so it was such a special song. And now knowing that my daughter turns 18, I knew it was a gift I had to give her, to send with her. She's not technically leaving the house yet, but she's already entertaining the idea of, you know, she has friends who are moving out potentially in the next year. And so it was a really hard time for me as a dad to, it was beautiful, but hard, you know, to like give your kids wings. It's the first time I really have to do that in a real way. And so I hope that song can, I don't know, be a reflection of how a lot of parents feel about their kids. It's really cool. I've had some friends who've made reels of their kids out of that song, and it's so special to see them put their memories of their kids into reels online, you know, on socials to that song. I hope it continues to be a special song for people who are at milestone points in their lives with their children.
Is that a song that you'll sing at her wedding one day?
Oh man, are you trying to make me cry
Don't
already?
do
This
that
early
to him,
in?
man.
You know, probably. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Wow. Your other song, I really want to talk about this, Church Hurt. Man, Matt, when I heard this song, I sent it to my brothers and I was like, wow. Like, so many Christians go through this and don't know how to explain it. And myself, Chris has a story too, but myself, you know, me and my wife, we went to this church that we met at, and got married there, and was the children's pastors there for 10, almost 11 years.
Wow.
And the pastor fell into sexual sin and a bunch of stuff. Really don't want to go into all of it, but you know, a lot of people left. Some of my family members were on staff there, as we were too. And so it was just these, you know, we saw these people more than we saw our own family. You know, we were at every church function, Sundays, Sunday nights, Wednesdays, you know, we were there all the time. And so when we left, it felt like a divorce, you know, like we saw these people and no longer saw them again. And then, you know, of course, there was the people that wanted to, you know, talk bad about the people that left, and then vice versa. And it was just a mess. And until this day, I mean, we left in 2012. And so that's what, 12 years ago already. Wow. And, you know, to this day, there's still people that haven't gotten back into their relationship with the Lord, or still out of church because of that hurt from that year. So could you please let's just talk about Church Hurt, the song.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people in my own life over the past few years kind of come to the surface and talk about deconstruction or feeling displaced from church families, not knowing where to find a church home again, maybe doubting their faith altogether because of experiences they had of pain inside of families of faith. And so I think I was really burdened that it was important to write a song about it. And part of that, started with me reflecting as I heard all these stories. And even as some of these podcasts and documentaries came out, I think what I noticed was it was like shining a light on some of the really bad things that had happened in churches. And then they kind of just left this rubble like, oh, well, that's really horrible. Okay, well, where do we go from here? How do we rebuild?
Right.
And I think I started feeling a burden about how do I help start this conversation, first of all, through a song. And so at first I was like, okay, how do I have this conversation? And I think there were three things that were really important to me. And as I reflected on my own journey, number one was empathy. Number one, like, hey, you're not alone. So many people go through this. At some point, if you're a lifelong Christian not even a lifelong Christian, if you've attended church for any period of time, you're going to experience hurt in the church family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anywhere else, like you would at work, like you would in your own, biological family or adopted family or whatever it is. But I think it hurts more because church is the place we go. It's like a hospital. We want to be healed. And it's harder to believe that broken people will hurt us there because it feels like more of a safe place. So I do think that the pain can be more pointed and more confusing because we expected a certain thing from the church. And so, number one, I wanted to say, hey, I've felt this. I know this healing journey. I've been there when I was a child. I've gone through it even as an adult. And then secondly, I think an important question that my parents answered for me was, do we put our faith in God or in people? My parents always taught me we put our faith in God. And I don't think they taught me that necessarily by saying that to me. They taught me that by their actions.
Sure.
When we went through church splits, they continued to love people and serve people and do that because they had their ultimate faith in Christ and in God. And their identity was in who they were in Jesus. Yeah. So it was an amazing, gift they gave me. So that's kind of the second part of the song. And then the third part of that journey that was important for me, I think, to express in the song was that Jesus was the very first to experience church hurt. He was the first one who was betrayed. He was the first one whose friends turned their backs on him. He was the one whose very own father had to turn his face from him so that he could take on the sins of the world. Yeah. And so he understands what it is. And part of the reason that he died for us was to heal us. And part of that healing is church hurt. He wants to heal his church. And I think we're at a point in time where the world desperately needs the church. More, I don't want to say more than ever. The world has always needed the church.
Sure.
But the world needs the church. And if we're going to be strong as the body of Christ, I think we have to look at how do we help our brothers and sisters heal who've been through this so that we can be stronger, so that we can make a greater impact as a whole, as the body. So that was why it was so important to me to write this song. But in opening the conversation, I didn't really want to leave it there. So I also felt really a call and kind of an obligation to take people further. And I talked to one of my pastors at my church, Eric Newberry, who'd also, like all of us has experienced church hurt as well. So we sat down together to write a 7-day devotional called Life After Church Hurt to continue the conversation, to help people actually address and come face to face with the reality of what they'd been through and walk them through some simple steps of healing. Not that it is simple, it's not.
Right.
But walk them through the steps of healing so that they can at least start that journey and hopefully help people find at least an entryway into that conversation and steps towards healing in their lives. And so I actually, made that available for free if people are interested, if people are out there who are going through it, they can actually go to just my website. It's matthammitt.com, and they can download the PDF of the 7-day devotional for free. There's no cost to it. You don't even have to opt in to an email list or anything like that. So we just send it to them, and my hope is that people who hear that song kind of find themselves maybe willing to check out that devotional. And I don't know, I hope between the song and the devotional that it makes a big impact. I've had over 600 people, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, 600 people who've gone to the website, just followed through to go and download that devotional. And I hope that they've given it to more than that. So yeah, that was my heart, and that was my hope for writing that song.
Well, it's really cool to hear your heart on it, but also just to know that it's not just a song for you. Like you also put in the time to put some resources together to help and to really, I don't know, do your best to try and give some healing where there has been some hurt. So it's really cool that you've done that and that seeing fruit from it. And it's definitely needed, especially nowadays with everything.
Yeah, it is needed. So I hope that I can make at least a little impact with that.
Yeah. So we are a podcast for fans by fans, and we have a fan question for you. Rachel from Lansing, Michigan, wants to know the story behind I'm Not All Right.
Yeah. Well, that one was a deep one, man. You know, we had a really, really close friend going through a hard divorce. Mark was losing his father to cancer. I had lost my grandmother. There was just a lot of loss and a lot of things that were kind of just shaking us up. And I had written a song hoping to encourage people, and the lyrics to it, and it was the music and the melody of I'm Not All Right. So, I'm not all right, and I'm not all right, right? The chorus is like, I'm not all right, right? And then, but the original lyric was, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Okay. So corny is all get out, really. And so, because we were trying to do like the thing, like, I'll be fine, I'll make it. And we were in the room with our producer, Chris Stevens, and we all looked at each other and we're like, does this kind of feel like BS to everybody else? We're like, a little bit, man. What's the truth? Like, the truth is, yes, maybe I'll be fine, but right now I'm not. We're not okay. We're not all right. And I remember, like, Chris at his piano, Chris Stevens, our producer, started playing that chord progression of that chorus, and we started singing those words. I'm not all right. I'm broken inside. Where does that lead? Then we got to that line. That's why I need you. And it was like, that's when we all felt the goosebumps in the room. We were like, that's what it is, man. It's our pain bringing us to the place of surrender to what God wants to do in our lives. It's not just glossing it over and pretending like everything's okay. And, and so that was a healing moment for us to just kind of tell the truth. I also believe at the time, it was probably one of the first songs that was widely embraced in Christian music and radio, especially at radio, that said something like that.
Right.
Because up until that point, I'd never heard a song embraced at radio that ever said anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that I'm most proud of that song is that it wasn't only a breakthrough moment for us. I felt like it was a breakthrough moment at Christian radio for them to play something that came from a really honest heart that didn't sound glossed over. And I'm not saying that as a criticism of radio. We want to, in this industry, we want to encourage people, but I think it was the first time they embraced the power of just speaking a blunt truth like that. And I think it was so freeing for people, and which is why we have people, I guess, asking questions about that song this many years later, right? Yeah. So that's really cool. Yeah. So you said it was Rachel?
Yes.
Rachel, thanks for asking that question. That's cool you brought that up.
Well, and also I think about the notes in that song, Matt, that you had to do. Some of those are like, whoa.
We had to actually, over time, drop that song half a step for me to be able to sing it live still, because it was like tearing my voice apart. Kind of thing I could do in a studio, because they were trying to push the limits on me of like, what can we get out of him,
Yeah.
And I'm in there like drinking water, screaming in the mic. And then I get up live and I'm like, my voice is tired. I've sang 5 nights in a row. And I'm getting up there. I'm like, dudes, look, how about we not do this again? You know?
Yeah, really. I have to drop it.
Yeah.
So, Matt, we like to do this with every first-time guest. It is a segment called Favorite Things. We are going to name a category, and you just name your favorite thing within that category. Should be pretty easy. But some of these, I will say, can be a little difficult.
Oof. Nervous guy.
So we'll start it out pretty easy. I would say easy. Is your favorite food?
Oh, man. This is going to sound really funny, but my favorite food is probably corn on the cob at a fair with tons of butter and all the stuff, man.
Mexican street corn.
And Mexican street corn. Yep, exactly. So killer. I don't know why. It's got such a sweet spot for it, man.
So have you seen the corn kid?
Corn ambassador.
Yeah, totally.
Corn ambassador.
Do you guys know JJ Heller?
Yes.
Yeah.
JJ's husband Dave sent me a picture of when they were on tour with us years ago, just this week, of me at a fair, like holding up 2 corn on the cob or like the street corn loaded with stuff at some fair we played at. So funny, man. Timely.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that little kid, man, I was like, the dude went on a green giant float and everything.
Oh, dude, that's so good. Okay, I have to do this. Hold on, let's see if I can do it. I can do it really quick. Let me see. Dave Heller. Where are we at? Okay, here it is, man. Okay, here's the photo he sent me holding up the corn at the fair.
Yes.
Proof that I love corn, and I'm not just answering your question.
Yeah.
Do you like cream corn?
I do.
Corn.
Hey, man, does it have corn in it? I like it.
That's funny.
I'm from Ohio, bro, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Cornfields. Do you have a favorite movie?
Oh, man, this is probably the most cliche man answer of all time. Actually, I'm going to let you guys guess. What would be the most cliche?
Frozen.
How'd you know? So Braveheart.
Okay.
Is one of those movies, man, that just like, I was the right age when I saw it, and it was like, my heart was like, it was like, you know, like that tenderness, but like the warrior, you know, it was like all the stuff, man. That
when he gives that speech, you just want to rip your shirt and be like, yeah, let's go.
Totally. I got a interesting opportunity, and you know, you guys will know when I say it because he's a believer, he's a Christian music fan. But I ended up at Ben Roethlisberger's house one time with Bart Millard from Mercy Me, and he actually has one of the coolest things about his man cave was that he has props from the movie Braveheart. I was in heaven.
We actually talked to Andrew Irwin today, and
you talked to Andy today?
Yeah, he has a new podcast.
You know, Andy's like one of my best friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the whole world. That's so awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
Very cool.
He's super cool. But he just had the guy that wrote Braveheart on his pod.
Yep.
And it was something like he was like
came
40,
out today.
40 or 50 years old when he wrote it. I forgot the thing he told me, but I was like, no way. And then so they're working with
Andy sent me that podcast today to listen to. He's like, hey, it's live. Check it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's super cool, man.
We were really excited because he just interviewed the guys from Blurry Creatures, and so that ought to be an interesting episode.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, those dudes are awesome, man.
All right, well, do you have a favorite show to binge?
Okay, so my favorite show is actually not a TV show. My favorite show is a podcast. It's called The Christian Music Guys. Actually, as awesome as you guys are, I will say, my favorite show is Criminal. I don't know if you're familiar with Phoebe Judge. I don't know what it is, man, about her voice and the way she tells stories.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's true crime, but it's not like gory true crime. It's like intellectual true crime. And it's also masterful storytelling, the way that she pieces it together. It's kind of almost like that NPR, This American Lifestyle, the way that they tell it. But she just, I just love that show. Actually, every time a new episode comes out, I'll actually put my AirPods in and I'll listen to it. as I'm going to bed because her voice puts me to sleep, and then I have to listen to it again the next day because I missed like half of it.
Yeah.
So I love that show.
Nice. Do you have a favorite musical artist of all time?
Oof. That's a hard one, man. Gosh, musically, there is something about the band Keane. I don't know if you're familiar with Keane. They're a British band. There's something about the melodies and the music in some of their albums that speaks to me so deeply. Their lyrical content, doesn't speak to me quite as deeply, so I can't say they're like my favorite musical. However, gosh, I'm trying to think of, there's just so many, man.
Yeah.
I mean, probably all those influences that I talked about before, like on the music side, some of the bands we grew up with. But I will say, like, I've always been such a massive fan of the heart of, this is like probably everybody my age in Christian music. I don't know. John Foreman, the way that he's written, I will say, has been so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I don't know that I have one favorite. Sting has always been a big influence on me. I don't know why. Phil Collins' Face Value record was a big deal to me. But gosh, man, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
I think I remember when DC Talk's album Jesus Freak first came out, and they were like the first to do that like Nirvana like guitar riff or whatever. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody in Christian music is doing this. This is amazing. And we're sitting there in front of the stereo with my friends, like just like eyes wide open, listening to every song. And the production was huge and it was so fresh sounding. So I think for me, more than one artist that across time that has been most influential would probably be the moments I've had with artists like that who've done something in a moment of time that's like marked me somehow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have a dream duet?
Dream duet. See, here's the thing. I haven't thought about a dream duet, which is really funny. But now you got me thinking about it. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. Now you got me up at night, man. Now I'm gonna be thinking about it. I'm gonna be up at 5 a.m. thinking about who would I want to sing with.
What about a favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh man. So there's actually this Wits frozen custard, which I know is kind of a chain, but they have one here in Nashville. They have what they call the Music City Madness, which is I get it with chocolate custard or ice cream, whatever. I like custard or ice cream. Chocolate with Reese's peanut butter cups in it, man. So really probably chocolate peanut butter would be the answer.
Anything chocolate, anything peanut butter.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Man, gosh, one in particular, man. I keep going back and forth. You know what? I will say this. I will say that Psalm is, and again, man, like I keep going back and forth about which one I want to say. Psalm 139. I know that it's like such a classic Bible verse about being created in God's image, created by God's hand, known by Him before we were born. Like I think Him knowing every hair on our head, just the fact that our Creator knows us speaks so deeply to me. Part of the reason that Psalm spoke so deeply to me was because when my son was born with heart disease, I had to believe that God knew and still had knit him together in my wife's womb. Yeah. And I think it was like one of those Bible verses I'd heard or one of those scriptures I'd heard my whole life that was meaningful, but it took on a whole different meaning to me during that time. And what it meant to me to have a son, even with heart disease, believing God, you designed this child. You knew exactly what he was going to go through. And I have to believe that this story is yours.
So good. Well, you have passed the favorite things with flying colors.
Except for the duet, which I'll work on.
Except for the duet, yes. Yeah. TBC? Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Matt, what is next for you, and how can our listeners keep up with you?
Yeah, so, man, there's so much going on all the time. So there's a couple different things. I'm working on a couple side projects that are kind of exciting. There's a film composer in town who is just a genius. He teaches film composition. And so he invited me to write lyric and melody for some compositions that we did together. And we're still working on that. So that'll be coming out. It'll be like a very cinematic, ethereal kind of project.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Nick DePartie, who used to play guitar for Cutlass, and then my buddy Jake Rye, who played bass for Sanctus Real for about 5 years. We're all kind of working on a band project, a side project potentially that we'll do, called Low Cloud instead of LOW, because LOW is taken, of course. If you can find a band name that's not taken these days, I mean, So you'll find the band name you want, you'll find it somewhere, even if it's like SoundCloud, they'll have like one listener, and you'll be like, dude, what do we call this thing? We went through like lists and lists of names, and we loved Low Cloud, so we're like, fine, Low Cloud. So we've been writing music for that. That'll probably be kind of just a rock project we'll probably pitch it for same thing like sync, like film and TV. It'll just be a fun side project. We might play a couple of shows out just for fun. We're still kind of feeling out what that is, but we've got like 3 or 4 songs written. Me and Nick have been writing. Jake's been helping us produce some stuff. And then I'm actually potentially talking right now, even with a label, about potentially doing some more independent stuff in partnership with them. And so I'm expecting that this year there's going to be kind of another level of, or another season of the Matt Hammitt solo stuff coming out. Maybe. I don't want to talk too soon. Maybe in partnership with a label. So
nice.
I'm kind of praying through that, working through that, what that would look like right now. The decision's not been made, but I think that I'm in a season now where I think that would be really appealing to me to work with a label partner again, instead of doing it on my own. And so I think right now, those are the kind of things. And I'm always speaking too, which has kind of been a really interesting path that I never anticipated speaking as much as I do. But it's kind of become this cool hybrid where I've been going to speak at conferences and events where I'm able to sing some songs and also give a message. And so it's been pretty cool to be able to unpack some things on that platform. But if people want to, find what I'm doing, they can always, I think the best way, honestly, I'm most active on Instagram. So if people want to follow me, just at Matt Hammitt on Instagram, they'll find all the links there in my bio to where they can find all my songs and my link tree and all that. And
Cool.
Also, hey, I did put out a book in 2020 called Lead Me, obviously, which is the biggest song that Sanctus Real had when I was in the band. And that kind of unpacks this whole from being a child through meeting the band, and then the tension between family dreams and career dreams and where God has led me to where I am now. So I'd love for people to check that out too.
Well, Matt, to wrap up, we'd like to see if you'd be willing to share something that God's been doing in your life recently that would help build our listeners and viewers' faith.
Absolutely. And I've just been learning a lot about contentment with where God has me in this moment and in this season. I think he didn't say this first, but he repeated this truth to me years ago. And honestly, it's one of those things that has stuck with me so deeply. That friend of mine is Michael Donahue from 10th Avenue North, who I still stay in very close touch with. I was struggling with vision for my life, choices I was trying to make. What do I do? We all have these huge dreams of where we want to go, what we want to accomplish, all these visions, dreams that maybe God has planted in our hearts, maybe dreams that are our own selfish dreams. Sometimes we can't tell the difference between the two.
Yeah.
But Mike always said, flourish where you're planted. Where has God planted you today, where I can be faithful and flourish in the work that he has called me to do right here and right now, so I can be ready for the next door that he opens, wherever he opens it, whether it's bigger, whether it seems smaller, whatever that is. And so that's what I would say to your audience today is be content with where God has you now. Keep dreaming, but flourish where you are and steward what he's given you now so that you can be trusted to steward the next thing that he brings. So be faithful now. He was faithful with little, right? God knows that he can be faithful with much. And so just be faithful where you're at, be content, find your identity in Christ. And I think that's what we can do, know that we can do every single day.
Well, thanks, Matt, so much. And check out matthammitt.com, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Packed up-
matthammitt.com, or just follow me on socials. It's Matt Hammitt everywhere.
Packed Up My Love is out. Church Hurt's out. Those are your 2 latest singles, I believe.
Yes.
And so, yeah, man, thanks a lot. And, maybe Stevie Wonder. I don't know. Those are the people you want duets with, but maybe Stevie Wonder. I don't know. Maybe, Sting. I mean, you talk a lot about Sting.
That'd
So
be
there
amazing. That would be amazing. So it's all.